August 26th, 1346. Rain pours down on a muddy field near the small village of Crécy in northern France. 9,000 exhausted English soldiers stand ready to face an army that should destroy them completely. Across from them, 30,000 of Europe's finest warriors prepare to attack. These aren't ordinary soldiers, they're knights, the elite fighting force that has ruled European battlefields for 500 years. The French army glitters with confidence. 12,000 heavy cavalry, men wrapped in steel armor, riding massive war horses bred for war. Nearly every important noble in France has come to fight. Kings from neighboring lands have joined them. The Holy Roman Empire sent troops. Even the distant kingdom of Bohemia sent its warriors. This is the greatest fighting force France has ever assembled, united by one simple goal: kill the English king and crush his army. These French knights are living weapons. Each one has trained for combat since childhood. Their armor costs more money than an entire village earns in a year. When they charge, the ground shakes. For centuries, nothing has stopped them. Infantry soldiers exist only to die beneath their horses. Archers are nothing but a minor annoyance. Real warriors, noble warriors, fight on horseback with lance and sword. The French know they're doomed. They're outnumbered 3-1. They've spent weeks burning and looting their way across France, and now they're tired, low on supplies, and trapped. Their king, Edward III, has led them into what looks like certain death. Yet Edward has one advantage the French don't see, don't understand, and certainly don't respect: 5,000 longbowmen. Most of these archers are peasants, some are criminals, none of them are knights. In 4 hours, these common men with simple wooden bows will destroy the flower of French nobility and change warfare forever. The English longbow looks simple. Just a 6-foot piece of yew wood, curved and strung. No metal parts, no complex mechanisms. A peasant's weapon. But in trained hands, it's devastating. A skilled archer can shoot 12 arrows every minute. Each arrow can fly 250 yards, the length of more than 2 football fields. The bow requires incredible strength to draw. The pull weight ranges from 150 to 180 pounds. Using it for years transforms the body. Scientists can still identify medieval longbowmen by examining their skeletons. Their left arms are stretched longer than their right from the constant strain. English law made archery mandatory. Every Sunday after church, men had to practice with the bow. Playing other sports was actually illegal. This wasn't about fun or tradition. It was about survival. England needed archers, thousands of them, all capable of killing at distance. The result was an army of peasants who could shoot faster and farther than any other force in Europe. Edward positions his troops on high ground, forcing the French to attack uphill. He arranges his archers in a V formation, creating overlapping fields of fire. Then he does something shocking, something no king has ever dared. He orders his knights to dismount and fight on foot. English nobles, men raised to fight from horseback, will stand in the mud beside peasants. It's unthinkable. It's humiliating. But Edward understands what his enemies don't. The age of the mounted knight is ending. That night, the English prepare carefully. Archers rub beeswax on their bowstrings to keep them dry. Soldiers dig pits and plant sharpened stakes to stop charging horses. They transform the hillside into a trap. Across the valley, the French stumble into camp exhausted and hungry after a forced march. Their leaders argue about who will get to capture the English king. They parade in polished armor, showing off, competing for glory. They don't prepare. They don't need to. They're certain they'll win. The French reach Crécy around 4 in the afternoon on August 26th, completely exhausted. King Philip VI gives the sensible order: make camp, rest, and attack tomorrow. But French nobles don't take orders well. They see the English on that hill, outnumbered and far from home, and they smell glory. Each lord wants to be the man who captures or kills Edward. Strategy is for common soldiers. Honor demands immediate action. Then the sky opens up. Heavy rain drenches the field. The French laugh inside their armor, trusting their steel to protect them. But the storm changes everything for the missile troops. The English quickly unstring their bows and tuck the cords under their helmets and clothes to keep them dry. The Genoese crossbowmen, Italian mercenaries hired by France, aren't so lucky. Their bowstrings get soaked and stretch, becoming nearly useless. This small difference, a few minutes of preparation, will determine who lives and who dies. When Philip finally arrives and sees the English calmly waiting on the slope, he commands his army to wait until morning. But his nobles won't listen. Behind him, counts and dukes surge forward, shouting that daylight is wasting. Some have already lowered their lances. The king's authority dissolves instantly. The French army stops being an organized force. It becomes a mob of impatient aristocrats, unwilling to let discipline stand between them and fame. The battle begins not with strategy, but with pride, spiraling out of control. The vanguard ignores orders and advances. Once a few nobles start moving, the rest follow, desperate not to be left behind. Philip has lost control before the first blow is struck. What happens next isn't really a battle. It's a parade of nobles galloping toward their own destruction, too proud to stop, too confident to fear. The Genoese crossbowmen advance first. 5,000 professional soldiers, the finest mercenaries money can buy. But they have problems. Their large shields are still with the baggage crane. They have no cover. The rain has ruined their bowstrings. They march to about 150 yards and release their first volley. Most bolts fall short, useless. Then the English answer. 5,000 longbows released together, creating a sound witnesses describe as thunder. The sky darkens beneath a storm of arrows. Each archer shoots 12 arrows per minute. That means 60,000 shafts rain down every 60 seconds. The Genoese have no shields, no cover, and their crossbows take 30 seconds to reload, while the longbows need only 5. They're being erased. Panic breaks them, and they flee back toward their own lines. Then comes the madness. French nobles, seeing their own mercenaries retreating, scream that this rabble is blocking their way. They charge forward and deliberately slaughter the Genoese. Knights cut down their own hired soldiers for not dying fast enough. Now the main assault begins. 12,000 mounted knights charge uphill through mud and over corpses into the rain of English arrows. This is where the longbow shows its true terror. At long range, arrows often can't pierce the best armor. But they don't need to. They find the horses. Eyes, mouths, joints, legs, all the soft places no armor can cover. A 1,500-pound horse hit by multiple arrows doesn't keep charging. It screams, rears, and collapses. Knights crash into the fallen. The charge loses all momentum. At closer range, under 100 yards, the bodkin-tipped arrows can pierce mail and even plate armor at weak points, through visors into faces, through joints into armpits, through mail into thighs. Even when they don't penetrate completely, the impact is brutal. Repeated hits rattle the men inside their armor like dice in a cup. The French charge again and again, waves upon waves, climbing over their own dead. The English keep up a ceaseless storm of fire. The battlefield becomes hell on earth. Horses break their legs in hidden pits. Riders crash onto sharpened stakes. The rain-soaked earth turns into sucking mud. Knights who fall can't get up under 60 pounds of steel. They lie there, immobile targets waiting to die. When English archers run out of arrows, they rush onto the field, pull shafts from dead and wounded Frenchmen, and fire them back. The French are dying from their own recycled weapons. Into this nightmare rides the blind King John of Bohemia. He's been blind for nearly a decade, but he refuses to leave the battle. When told the fight is lost, he says, "The King of Bohemia does not flee." He orders his knights to tie their horses' reins together so they can guide him forward. He wants to strike at least one blow before he dies. The 50-year-old blind king charges straight into the English lines, slashing at sounds and shadows. He and all his bound companions are cut down instantly. When his body is found, he's still tied to his fallen knights, sword in hand. He got his wish. He struck a blow before dying. Edward's son, the Black Prince, is so moved by this courage that he adopts John's personal symbol, 3 ostrich feathers and a motto meaning, "I serve." It remains the symbol of the Prince of Wales today. By nightfall, the French have charged 16 separate times, 16 suicidal waves of noble blood thrown into the grinder. Each charge is less organized than the one before. Desperate nobles fight each other for position, for one last chance at glory, only to die in the same mud as everyone else. Philip himself leads the final charge. His horse is struck down, and an arrow tears through his jaw. His guards drag him from the battlefield as he struggles to return to the fight. France's sacred battle banner, believed to promise victory, is left abandoned in the mud. As darkness falls, the English barely believe what they've done. They hold their ground until morning, finishing off wounded Frenchmen with knives and clubs. English peasant archers are literally beating French nobles to death with wooden stakes. Dawn on August 27th reveals the full scale of the massacre. The elite of French nobility lies dead in the mud. The Count of Flanders, the Count of Blois, the Duke of Lorraine, the Count of Alençon, the list goes on and on. Over 1,500 nobles are dead, 11 princes, thousands of lesser knights. English losses total around 40 dead, with only 2 knights among them. 1 English knight for every 750 French nobles. The numbers are so absurd that witnesses refuse to believe them, calling it an act of God. But the truth is simpler. In one afternoon, the longbow has made heavy cavalry obsolete. The real devastation isn't in the numbers, it's in who died. Medieval warfare had always relied on capturing nobles for ransom, an unspoken contract of chivalry. Killing the wealthy was bad business. But at Crécy, English archers, common men with no sense of knightly honor, simply kill everyone. They send arrows through the faces of dukes and counts without caring who they are. The psychological shock to Europe's nobility is catastrophic. For centuries, being a knight meant superiority, a divine right to dominate the battlefield. Crécy shatters that illusion. It proves that a Welsh peasant with a bow can end a lord's life as easily as another knight can. Military power no longer comes from noble blood. It comes from discipline, innovation, and tactics. The aftermath is grotesque. So many nobles die that there aren't enough peers left to bury them with honor. Bodies rot for days in the heat. Crows and wolves feast on princely flesh. Birds grow so fat on noble meat they can barely fly. Peasants scavenge the dead, stripping armor and jewelry that will make them rich overnight. The exhausted English march onward, leaving behind a field so covered with noble corpses that locals rename it the Field of the Cloth of Gold, for the shimmering garments covering the dead. For years afterward, farmers plowing the soil unearth bones and rusted armor, grim relics of the day chivalry died. France is left in chaos. So many nobles gone in a single day creates a leadership vacuum. Entire provinces lose their lords. Administration collapses. The army must be rebuilt from nothing. France even begins copying English tactics, the ultimate humiliation. Crécy transforms the very nature of war. The dominance of archery means combat now unfolds at range. The era of gallant cavalry charges is finished. Battles become contests of positioning, planning, and firepower, not courage or swordsmanship. Yet France fails to learn quickly enough. A decade later at Poitiers, they make the same mistake, charging uphill into English archers with identical results. Another king captured, thousands more nobles slain. It takes nearly a century for France to fully accept that common archers are more valuable than armored knights. The social consequences run even deeper. If peasants can destroy nobles, what does that say about divine right? If criminals can slay princes, what justifies the feudal order? Crécy doesn't just kill France's nobility, it murders the idea that noble blood means superiority. The English longbowman becomes Europe's most feared soldier. But irony follows. The longbow requires years of training. You can't produce archers overnight. When gunpowder arrives with weapons any peasant can master in a day, the longbow too becomes obsolete. The tool that killed chivalry is itself destroyed by progress. Modern historians regard Crécy as a revolution in warfare. It proves that tactics and technology can crush numbers and courage, that well-prepared defenses can obliterate mounted charges, that coordinated firepower can dominate hand-to-hand combat. Every principle of modern warfare is born in that muddy French field. But perhaps the most haunting image remains this: French knights, the proud elite of Christendom, trampling their own men to reach the enemy faster, only to die beneath a storm of arrows. English peasants calmly firing into chaos as nobles fall like wheat before the scythe. Crows growing so fat on noble flesh they can scarcely fly, waddling between corpses too heavy to take wing, a grotesque symbol of a fallen class. Today, a small monument marks the field at Crécy. Few visitors stop there. Yet, on August 26, 1346, that muddy slope saw the medieval world end. 5 centuries of military tradition, the entire idea of warrior nobility died in an afternoon, slain by peasants with bent wood and string. The English didn't just win a battle, they proved that courage cannot defeat mathematics, that nobility cannot stop arrows, and that the age of the knight was over. France lost more than soldiers that day. They lost their belief in the natural order of the world. All it took was 5,000 peasants practicing archery every Sunday after church. If you're captivated by history's most brutal and transformative battles, subscribe to Echoes of History. Comment below and tell us where you're watching from. The past has more stories to tell.